At number 10, Mariah Carey. Mariah Carey isn't the nicest person ever. We already know this. She's had run-ins with the paparazzi which have not gone over well. She's had some bad relationships with others. She's known for being something of a diva. The theme here is that Mariah doesn't really treat people with the respect that they deserve, and this is probably why she's been sued for this kind of thing before. There was a lawsuit from one of Mariah's former assistants that claimed that the singer peed on her, ridiculed her body, and called her some pretty rude names. Her former assistant said that she was hired by the singer to be on call 24/7 and assisted both Mariah and her manager. Though she was paid a salary of $250,000 a year, this wage couldn't cover up the torment that she sustained from Mariah. But her case wasn't the only one up against the singer at the time. While this case was being disputed, Mariah had just settled one with her former manager, which cited breach of contract, harassment, and unpaid wages. It seems like though she pays her people well, she doesn't treat them as well as she should. Many other employees have had similar horror stories, which just shows that maybe working for the Queen of Christmas isn't as holly jolly as you might think.
In at number 9, DaBaby. At a recent concert, not only did rapper DaBaby slap a fan, but days later he got smacked himself with a lawsuit. Not his first either. Although this fan celebrity lawsuit has become a bit of a heated debate online. Upon watching the video from multiple angles, one side is arguing in defense of DaBaby, saying that the fan smacked him first with her phone as her flashlight was shining in the rapper's eye, which you can kind of see from the video. Someone just bops him right on the forehead. Now this makes much more sense in the way that he responds. He appears to be disoriented by having this light in his eye, so he swings to knock whatever is doing that out of the way. Inadvertently, he slaps the woman holding the phone inches from his face. Now that being said, in defense of the plaintiff, he smacked her extremely hard and then without even an apology, he kind of just walked away like nothing happened. This is also unacceptable behavior. The woman that was slapped also claims that she wasn't even the one that bopped him with the phone in the first place, and that she was simply standing beside that person. She is suing for battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and other damages as well, and that's pretty much all we know in that case right now.
At number 8, Kelly Clarkson. Singer Kelly Clarkson has been caught in a legal battle with her ex-husband, Brandon Bladstock, over the affairs managed by her former management company, Starstruck Management Group, a company run by her ex-husband's father. Starstruck Management was actually the first to file a lawsuit against Kelly, claiming that Kelly owed the company $1.4 million in unpaid management fees. After being accused of not paying her fees, Kelly hit back with a countersuit, claiming that she never had an official contract with the management group. On top of that, Kelly claimed that neither her ex-Brandon nor his father Narvel were licensed to operate as her manager. And if you thought that just ended there, you are mistaken, because on top of the claims that Kelly had already made about her ex and his company, Kelly also went on to file another lawsuit in return for, quote, having defrauded her out of millions of earnings. In this suit, she claimed that Brandon was charging her large fees for 13 years and was charging her for his unlicensed management services. As far as I know, this legal battle is still ongoing, so who knows what else might come out.
And at number 7, Kim Kardashian. Kim Kardashian was sued by 7 former staff members in May of this year. The employees claimed that they were not paid enough or given breaks while employed at her California home. The lawsuit claimed that the staff never received pay stubs and weren't paid on a regular basis. They also were not given any breaks for meals or rest, and they weren't paid for all the hours they worked, along with other issues regarding compensation. But Kim claimed this was not true and that she was not responsible for paying these employees. Apparently they worked for another company and were paid through this third party. Kim's spokesperson said, quote, Kim is not party to the agreement made between the vendor and their workers. Therefore, she is not responsible for how the vendor manages their business.
In at number 6, Usher. Usher is a successful American R&B pop star who first began making music at the age of 15. Now at 41 years old, he has quite the illustrious career, and whether you're a fan of his or not, you definitely will recognize his influence. I mean, he was the main reason why Justin Bieber even rose to fame in the first place. Although sadly in 2017, he became famous for a much different reason. Usher had a lawsuit filed against him by 3 fans of his who claimed the singer gave them all herpes. Herpes, again, what's going on with herpes in LA? Although he never made a public statement in regards to this celebrity fan lawsuit, he is known by some for being accused of this before. Previously in 2012, an unnamed plaintiff sued Usher over a similar matter for which he settled out of court for $1.2 million. If that doesn't scream I'm guilty, I don't know what else does.
At number 5, Alanis Morissette. Back in 2017, singer Alanis Morissette filed a lawsuit against her former business manager. The singer sued for breach of fiduciary duty, conversion, fraud, and negligence after she claimed that her business manager swindled her out of $4.7 million. At the time of this alleged swindling, between 2009 and 2016, Alanis' finances were managed by Jonathan Schwartz and the GSO Business Management, and they were charged with the responsibility of collecting the singer's income, managing her investments, and paying her bills. She had no idea about the money that she was allegedly losing until she hired a new business manager. This new manager, Howard Grossman, is the one that discovered that there were 116 transfers from Alanis' accounts over to Jonathan Schwartz's over a 4-year period that totaled nearly $5 million. After taking her former business manager to court, they eventually settled, but the details of the settlement are not available to the public. At number 4, Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga is one of the most famous singers out there, so you know that she makes a lot of money, but even with all of her riches, apparently she wanted to keep a lot of it for herself and not pay her staff. Back in 2011, Gaga was sued by a former assistant who claimed that the singer had cheated her out of her overtime wages when she worked alongside the singer for 13 months from 2009 to February 2010. According to the assistant, they were supposed to earn a flat rate of $50,000 annually in the first year, and in the second year of working for the singer, that rate was bumped up to $75,000. It's still a good paycheck, but the assistant claimed that she never got her bonus overtime pay despite the fact that she had to work and be on call 24/7. Though the case was supposed to go to trial in 2013, they ended up coming to a settlement agreement before they ever entered the courtroom.
In at number 3, Taylor Swift. A lot of fans of celebrities will try to get their attention through, tweets, maybe fan art, maybe a gift, but for Russell Godfrey Greer, he took a much more unusual approach. Greer recorded a love song for Taylor Swift and decided to sue the pop star on the grounds that he not only deserves her attention, but has a legal right to it. Unfortunately for him, Taylor's managers put the kibosh on this love song early on, which only enraged the fan. You see, Greer believed that if Taylor could accept other gifts given to her by fans, then why would his song not be allowed through? Maybe because it was creepy. I don't know, maybe it was creepy. But just a thought. He even wrote a book called Why I Sued Taylor Swift and How I Became Falsely Known as Frivolous, Litigious, and Crazy. And perhaps the best review of his book was the person who said, "A crazy stalker's quest to sue Taylor Swift into having a date with him." Interesting because it's written by the stalker himself and not a third party intending to make the stalker look crazy. Cut out the middleman, get the insanity straight from the source. I think we got another rose in the chat.
At number 2, Billy Unger. Most of the celebrities I've mentioned so far have sued their managers or management groups, but here's a case of a celebrity suing a member of their own family. Former Disney Channel star Billy Unger, known for his role on the Disney show Lab Rats, actually sued his own father for a number of things, including breach of contract, fraud, and negligent representation. Billy's father, William, was not only his talent manager, but also his business and financial advisor, and according to Billy's court filings, he accused his father of, quote, improperly and illegally mismanaging his income for his own personal benefits. Billy said that his father was not up to the task of managing Billy's affairs, as he said in his court documents that his father, quote, utterly and completely lacks the skill, knowledge, and experience to act either as an entertainment talent manager or business manager, end quote. In court, Billy claimed to have spent over $6,000 on his father's girlfriend's rent, and that his father used over $1,200 to take out a $1 million life insurance policy on Billy, and only listed himself as Billy's beneficiary. According to the actor, his father took 33% of commissions from Billy, purposely knowing that this rate was much higher than the industry standard. Apparently, William spent over $120,000 of his son's money just to impress a girl.
And finally at number 1, Charlie Sheen. Back in 2015, Charlie Sheen was sued for $1 million by a former staff member named Keith Fitzgerald. When Fitzgerald was originally hired in 2013, he was offered a 3-year contract with a salary of $300,000, medical benefits, and 20% incentive bonus as well. He was supposed to work for 3 years but was fired after only 5 months. Because of this inconsistency, the staff member sued for premature termination. Allegedly, Sheen didn't pay for any of his work either. The lawsuit said in part, quote, Fitzgerald's employment relationship was prematurely terminated after approximately 5 months without any explanation. Fitzgerald received no compensation whatsoever for any of the services he performed for Charlie Sheen at any time whatsoever. Sheen denied the claims and called the whole thing bogus, but the suit was later settled for an undisclosed amount.
At number 10, Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage is a pretty big Hollywood actor, but just because everyone thinks you're rich and successful doesn't necessarily mean that's the truth. The real truth about Nick Cage is that he hit rock bottom after going broke, and he blamed his manager for it all. Between the years of 1996 and 2011, he was worth over $130 million, but as he began to make more money, he started spending more money buying pretty pricey and lavish things. Among the things that he spent his hard-earned cash on included things like luxury cars, 2 islands, a yacht, a jet, several properties around the world, a dinosaur skull, and my personal favorite, a $150,000 pet octopus. The actor had to sell a lot of his stuff, but he blamed his business manager Samuel J. Levin for mismanaging his funds and causing him to go bankrupt, and as a result he filed a $20 million lawsuit in 2009. Levin denied the claims that Nicolas was making and even filed a countersuit saying that he tried to warn the actor about spending habits, but that his advice went unheeded, leading the actor to financial ruin. Sources said that the two settled out of court, but those documents remain classified. All we know is that the drama is over and Nicolas is back to rebuilding his fortune.
And at number 9, Christian Bale. Christian Bale is definitely the person I would want to work for the least, because he uses intimidation and threats of physical harm towards his assistants. One of his former assistants had such a bad experience working for the star, he actually wrote a whole book exposing him. The book's called Christian Bale: The Inside Story of the Darkest Batman. It was an inside look into the negative experiences the assistant witnessed while working for him. Apparently one time fans approached Bale for an autograph, but they ended up running away crying because of how mean he was. Another time Bale got fan mail sent to his home, and Bale told the assistant that the fan should be quote eliminated, adding quote, a screwdriver thrust through the eyeball into the brain prevents any screaming. Let me know how it goes. Things were so bad the assistant was diagnosed with PTSD afterwards.
In at number 8, Rihanna. Hey, remember when I said Mila Kunis getting sued over a stolen pet chicken was the most bizarre? I forgot about this one. A fan of Rihanna sued her after she allegedly contracted oral herpes at one of the pop star's concerts. She claims that it was contracted via a free sample of Riri's Woo lipstick. Her name is Darkema Greenridge, and she was seeking unspecified damages for the mental anguish and emotional distress that was caused by this lipstick. Excuse me if my eyes start to roll into the back of my head. The 28-year-old waitress from New York City told the press, "This is going to happen over and over again if nothing is done. I wasn't able to work for 2 weeks. It cost me a lot of money. And at the end of the day, upon seeing a doctor, it was diagnosed as just a cold sore, which definitely could have come from the lipstick if Rihanna's sponsors weren't, cleaning all of the test samples. But still, that's not Rihanna's fault."
At number 7, Shannon Doherty. Everyone wants to feel like they're protected in case something goes wrong. That's why people take out insurance policies, and that's why health insurance is so important to so many people. So it would be terrible to find out that you had no coverage when something terrible has happened. This is what happened to Shannon Doherty after she found out that she had breast cancer. Back in 2015, the actress filed a lawsuit against her business manager Tanner Mainstein Glenn and Johnson for quote, failing to properly secure her health insurance. According to court documents, when Shannon got breast cancer, the cancer ended up spreading because she wasn't able to seek proper medical attention due to the fact that she had no health coverage. Shannon claimed that her business manager was supposed to pay her insurance premium to the Screen Actors Guild, but he failed to follow through with that, and then terminated their working agreement in 2014. In the following year, when she re-enrolled, she found out about her cancer and how invasive it was. It was then that she learned that had she seen a doctor sooner, the cancer could have been stopped. As a result of the legal battle, the actress and her former business manager reached a settlement in 2016 for an undisclosed amount. At number 6, Marilyn Manson. This year, a lot of dark information came out about singer Marilyn Manson. Multiple women came forward recounting their awful experiences with Manson, saying that the singer had harmed them severely. Some celebrities were part of the group of people who spoke out against the singer, but on top of that, one of Marilyn's assistants has also spoken out against the singer and even filed a lawsuit against him for having endured so much while working for him. The singer's assistant claimed that he had tried to kiss her, touch her inappropriately, and even made her work 48 hours straight. It was also claimed that Manson lured his assistant into working for him with promises of quote, artistic collaborations and creative opportunities, end quote. The assistant said that she lived in constant fear of one of his violent outbursts, and she said that she felt used, comparing herself to a piece of meat. To think that any of this happened to the people affected by Manson's actions is absolutely heartbreaking, and justice needs to be served.
In at number 5, Michael Jordan. The whole reason we have the movie Like Mike is because Michael Jordan was so famous and so talented at basketball that everyone wanted to be like Mike. Well, not everyone. Meet Alan Heckert of Portland, Oregon, who actually sued Michael Jordan because of how similar they looked, on the grounds of this resemblance causing emotional pain, suffering, defamation, and permanent injury. Alan also sued Jordan for $416 million. He also sued Nike for the exact same amount, claiming that they were the reason that Michael Jordan became a celebrity. Now, I don't want to be off base with this comment, so take it as my own personal remark on this lawsuit. Heckert said he couldn't go to church, play sports, or even ride the bus without someone asking, "Aren't you the guy from Space Jam?" Because I'm sure that's how people remember Michael Jordan. My beef with Heckert in this case is that he also shaved his head, got an earring in the same ear as Michael's, and started wearing Air Jordans. So yeah, I could understand why people were mistaking you for Michael Jordan. Either way, he eventually realized how crazy he was too and dropped the lawsuit.
At number 4, Rihanna. Rihanna has landed herself on a few Forbes lists, making her one of the wealthiest female musicians in the world, but there was a time that she was effectively bankrupt, and this was the cause of her 2014 lawsuit against her former accountant. The singer sued her accountant for $25 million after he allegedly advised her to make a number of bad financial decisions that left her with very little money at the end of it. In her lawsuit, she claimed that in 2009 she essentially went bankrupt, explaining that at the beginning of the year she had $11 million in cash, and by the end of the year, she was left with only $2 million. She blamed her accountant for this because the singer claimed that her accountant, Peter Gornis of Burden LLP, told her to buy a Beverly Hills mansion that cost over $7 million, but in reality, this was a purchase that she couldn't actually afford. To make things even worse for the singer, the mansion that she bought turned out to have a mold and water issue, making this house a very poor investment. Though she sued for $35 million, Rihanna ended up settling in court for $10 million instead.
And at number 3, Celine Dion. In 2012, Celine and her late husband were sued by their former handyman, Keith Sturdivant, for unpaid wages. This handyman worked at their Florida compound and performed duties like cleaning shutters, repairing appliances, and running errands. The lawsuit goes on to allege that Dion improperly and illegally designed Sturdivant as an exempt employee, which allowed them to avoid paying him overtime, which he is rightfully owed. Because of this, he is suing for unpaid back wages that he was entitled to during employment. At the time, he said others were also not paid what they were owed, so it wasn't clear if other people might be joining him in the suit. The suit was later settled for an undisclosed amount.
In at number 2, Justin Bieber. When you're as big of a celebrity as Justin Bieber is, it's only a matter of time before someone somewhere finds a reason to sue you. For Justin, he's been sued a few times, and some for good reason and others that are just plain ridiculous. This one sort of falls down the middle. In 2013, he was being sued by a woman that claimed her eardrums broke during all of the screaming fans at his concert, like it's his fault that he's a dreamboat. The mother, whose name is Stacey Betts, initially filed the lawsuit without a lawyer to back her up, and even though she asked the court to dismiss her case, she still believed that she was in the right. After taking her daughter to a Bieber concert in July of 2010, she claimed that her hearing had been permanently damaged, which is simultaneously a great roast joke on Justin, like his music was so bad that it made me go deaf. Imagine that was her defense. Guarantee the judge would have been on her side. First, she sued Bieber, then his label, then the concert promoter, and finally she sued the arena itself for $9.23 million in damages. And as I mentioned though, the case was dismissed and never really materialized into anything more.
And finally, at number 1, Mischa Barton. In another case of a celebrity suing their parents, actress Mischa Barton sued her mother in excess of $25 million for allegedly scheming to defraud her daughter. According to documents from the suit, Mischa had entered into a verbal agreement with her mother when she was just 8 years old, agreeing to have her mother as her manager and agreed to pay her 10% in fees, but Mischa alleged that her mother, quote, went wild with the money. According to the lawsuit, Mischa's mother, quote, created various companies to control her daughter's wealth. It was also alleged that Mischa's mother entered her into endorsement deals without her prior knowledge and even forged her daughter's signature so that she would appear in the movie Hoarders, lied about how much Mischa would get from the movie, and then kept the difference from her daughter's salary for herself. To make things worse, Mischa's parents had been living in an $8 million mansion that they bought with their daughter's money, and Mischa wasn't even allowed on the property. That is super shady.
In at number 10, Mila Kunis. Kicking off this list with one of the most bizarre lawsuits we've ever heard of is the Black Swan actress and That 70s Show star Mila Kunis. At the other end of this fan celebrity lawsuit is a woman named Christina Caro. Her claim was that she was a childhood friend of Mila's, and the lawsuit was accusing Kunis of stealing her pet chicken. Within the lawsuit, Caro was seeking $5,000 to pay for the therapy she needed after her beloved pet chicken was stolen. Although in a strange twist twist of events, the case was dismissed, and instead fans of Christina from this high-profile celebrity lawsuit helped her raise the money she needed.
At number 9, Johnny Depp. For actor Johnny Depp, the last few years haven't been very fun. Between the drama with his ex Amber Heard, the court case against the Sun publication, and his career downfall, it's been a negative time for him. But to add to all of this mess, Johnny also got into a lawsuit against his former managers at the management group back in 2017. Johnny sued his former management team for $25 million for negligence, fraud, and breach of fiduciary duty. Johnny claimed that between 1999 and 2016, the management group took $28 million in contingent fees that he never agreed to. On top of that, the actor also claimed that the group failed to pay his taxes on time, resulting in him having to pay $5.7 million in penalties. The management group fired back in a countersuit claiming that Johnny lived an ultra-lavish lifestyle and that it cost him upwards of $2 million a month, and that they warned him about his spending habits. There was a lot of back and forth in this lawsuit, but it all ended in a settlement of an undisclosed amount. At number 8, Naomi Campbell. Supermodel Naomi Campbell has been in the fashion industry for over 30 years. Over this time, she's had her fair share of scandals and feuds which have painted Naomi as the industry's mean girl. She's known for having had violent outbursts, and Naomi has been accused of being violent on 11 occasions and has been convicted of harming others 4 times. Some of the reported violent incidents include the model physically harming her assistant, grabbing her by the throat and beating her with a phone, harming another assistant, and allegedly holding her hostage, throwing her phone at a housekeeper, and other accounts of emotional and physical distress. Out of these incidents, the model has been sued on multiple occasions, and they all mostly just settled out of court, but she was required to take an anger management class on top of all of her payouts. There's been some things that have been covered up, but luckily these days Naomi doesn't seem to be harming others like she used to and has moved on from this dark time.
And at number 7, Charlie Sheen. Back in the day, when Charlie Sheen was the star of the sitcom 2.5 Men, there was a character called Rose. She was kind of this obsessed stalker of Sheen's that ended up moving closer to him so that she could obviously stalk him further, you know. In another odd turn of events though, a woman claiming she had romantic encounters with Sheen decided to sue the celebrity because she believed the Rose character was based on her likeness. So she must have been enough of a fan to watch the show and piece this together herself. The woman's name is Ursula Auburn, and she filed one of the most self-disparaging lawsuits I've ever heard of. Seriously though, when do you ever have a stalker admitting to be a stalker to win a court case? Auburn was seeking no less than $1 million in damages as well as punitive damages. Apparently, to avoid negative press, she just settled this case out of court. Probably for the best.
At number 6, Elton John. Back in the early 2000s, Elton John filed a lawsuit against his former manager, Andrew Hayden, and the accounting firm PricewaterhouseCoopers. Elton sued his manager for negligence, claiming that Hayden was negligent in handling Elton's affairs, and that Hayden allowed Elton's accountants to, quote, unfairly charge the singer for overseas tour expenses that should have been covered by the firm. When he took the case to court, he unfortunately lost the legal battle with the judge, saying that Elton's case, quote, fails on the facts. End quote.
Halfway number 5, Sharon Stone. Stone was sued by her former nanny after that nanny accused her of violating labor laws. The nanny also claimed that Stone made derogatory comments about her ethnicity. The nanny is of Filipino heritage and claims she was, quote, repeatedly subjected to numerous derogatory comments and slurs by Stone related to her Filipino ethnicity and heritage, mainly during her last 6 months of employment. These comments were allegedly relating to the nanny's accent. Apparently, the nanny was told not to speak so Stone's kids would not develop an accent like hers. Stone denied the claims and said it was, quote, an absurd lawsuit with made-up and fabricated claims filed by a disgruntled ex-employee who's obviously looking to get money any way she can. But only 1 year after this suit, Stone was sued by another employee, her then maid Angelica Castillo, for, quote, wrongful termination.
In at number 4, Snoop Dogg. This is perhaps one of the more reasonable fan celebrity lawsuits. The plaintiff, Richard Monroe Jr., was attending a Snoop Dogg concert, and when Snoop stepped into the audience, Richard believed this was his moment to hug his idol. As he rushed over to meet his favorite artist, a team of Snoop's security guards rushed in from the wings and tackled Monroe to the ground, resulting in major injuries. He was knocked unconscious, dragged off stage, and later woke up on the ground with a swollen face while laying in a pool of his own blood. Not exactly how you'd expect a Snoop Dogg concert to end, but hey, Richard sued for $22 million in damages, but was awarded just under $500,000. While the jury felt for him, they also believe that Snoop shouldn't be to blame for this. Apparently because he was in the courtroom so many times with Snoop Dogg, they actually ended up becoming really close. An odd way to end this story, but hey, at least it's a happy one. You know, other than his face getting smashed in.
At number 3, Billy Joel. Back in 1989, singer Billy Joel filed a lawsuit against his former manager Frank Weber. In this suit, he accused his former manager of, quote, fraud, breach of contract, breach of fiduciary duty, and federal racketeering statute violations. There was a lot of money being demanded in this suit, and Billy was serious about the damages that Frank had allegedly caused the singer. In his lawsuit, Billy asked for $30 million in compensatory damages, $60 million in punitive damages, and he also sought out the repayment of $15 to $20 million in commissions that his former manager received between 1980 and 1989. In return, Billy's former manager filed a $30 million countersuit, but the court dismissed his lawsuit. In the end, the court awarded Billy $2 million in partial judgment against his former manager. I think the court saw how much money was being demanded, and since it was such a ridiculous amount, they probably didn't want to take any of this seriously, but honestly, who knows? At number 2, Courtney Love. In 2012, Courtney Love got into some serious drama with one of her former assistants, and it got pretty ugly. Courtney's former assistant filed a lawsuit against the singer seeking wages, expenses, and punitive damages for, quote, wrongful firing, wage and overtime violations, false promise, breach of contract, negligent and intentional misrepresentation, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The assistant had nothing but negative reviews for having worked for Courtney, and she was prepared to tell the whole world about it as she was planning to publish an expose about her time with Courtney. In a copy of the book Proposal, this expose promised all kinds of inside knowledge about the celebrity, including details about how she is a, quote, alleged hoarder, media manipulator, and user, end quote. Nothing ever came of this book, I don't think, and I'm not quite sure what happened with the rest of the case, but I for one would have loved to know what this assistant had to say, because I have a feeling it would have been very juicy.
Last but not least, in our number 1 spot, Miley Cyrus. Now in 2009, we all still had fond memories of Miley Cyrus simply being known as Hannah Montana, although soon enough that Disney-fied image would be flipped on its head when this photo came out. Now Miley claims that this photo with friends was simply her making a silly face, but it's quite clear what's going on here. The photo led a Los Angeles woman named Lucy J. Kim to file a $4 billion lawsuit against the pop star. Kim said that the photo violated the civil rights of Asian Pacific Islanders. Furthermore, Kim claimed that the payment would be doled out to each of the Asian Pacific Islanders in the LA County, which is roughly 1 million people, who she believed deserved about $4,000 each from this traumatizing photo. I mean, I get where she's coming from, but it's a little much, isn't it? Cyrus, who was 16 at the time, insisted that the photo was taken out of context, but regardless of her excuses, she apologized if it offended anyone. And 9 months later, the lawsuit was just dropped. Although, just for a frame of reference, that $4 billion she was asking for is ludicrous. Cyrus was only worth about $160 million at the time, which is barely 4% of what she asked for.